and if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome to the Oak Road Hatter podcast following Friday night's 1-1 draw with Everton and ahead of Saturday's clash with West Ham United. It'll be our penultimate game of this Premier League season and it could be the end of this Premier League journey for now. Anyway, I'm joined today by Finley Cannon and Lewis Jones. Finn, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, not nice to be back at work after a long weekend, but good to be back on the podcast.
It's always a weird one after bank holiday because you're thinking, sweet, it's not Monday, but it properly kicks in like a Monday, don't it? It's the same kind of feeling. Lewis, how about you?
Yeah, all good. Nice to be in a bit of sun. Nice to have a bit of sun over the past couple of days after what's been a dreadful April and start of May.
So today we're going to combine the Everton review and the West Ham preview. Of course, we ran out with a draw against the Toffees. It was a very big game in terms of what 3 points could have meant, but we settled for the point. A game, as every Premier League game this season has been, full of controversy, full of good moments, full of bad moments. We're going to unpick that all, and then we'll look ahead to what I described as the penultimate game of the campaign, West Ham United away. Finn, I'll start with you. How did you assess the performance? We spoke about it being as close to must win as it could possibly be. We didn't win, but we're not down and out.
Yeah, so obviously we mentioned it was pretty much a must win, or as close as a must win, but we drew, so at least we got something from it. The actual performance itself, I thought, and everyone else that I've spoken to thought, we actually played well, particularly going forward. We looked like we had much more of a threat than recently as well, and I think that's probably to do with Eli being back. I thought Chong was very good, and obviously Sky Sports thought the same because they gave him man of the match. But generally, it was quite a well-rounded performance. But it was so frustrating to concede from a penalty from such a basic, I guess, error in judgment from Ted and Mengi has been so good for us this season. So as much as it was good to pick up a point, especially from a losing position, it feels like we really threw something away just from making a silly mistake, and we could have got way more from that, without a doubt. And then Luke Berry could have got one of the goals of the season late on, but just didn't go our way really.
I think you're underselling him. I think it'd be one of the goals of the century if that would have come off for Luke Berry. Lewis, same kind of question to you. How did you assess it, considering it was a fairly decent performance, and I don't know. I think we may have underestimated Everton. Well, certainly I did. Underestimated the kind of performance they could put out because I think they were decent. They were a completely different side to what we experienced both times at Goodison, both on and off the ball. How did you assess the performance and sort of what it meant for this relegation scrap?
It was everything I expected from Everton, really. There's a reason why they've got one of the most solid defences in the league, and they showed it. They were solid at the back. Tarkowski, I'm certain, has a magnet in his head. He just got in the way of everything, headed everything clear, and Branthwaite did the same, to be fair to him. But I thought it was a really positive performance. I thought Doughty looked back to his best. I think Mengi, despite the error, was very, very strong. Carlton and Eli obviously coming back into the fold together, I think massively helped out Carlton. And I think that's how also Eli got his goal, where Morris, it wasn't just him distracting the two centre halves, them two together. So he kind of peeled off to the back. So overall, I thought it was a really good performance.
And Finn, do we have any complaints about the penalty decision? Of course, it looked like it was nothing for us fans sitting in the ground. It looked like what are they even going to check for? But I think looking at the replays, it sort of made my mind turned at least.
Yeah, I don't think we can complain really about the decision being given. You can't really put yourself in a position where the ref has the opportunity to give something like that, because 9 times out of 10, if they're called over to the monitor, they will give it as well. So even though it happens constantly in every game and people are grappling in the box, when you're away from the real mass of players in the centre of the box and you just grab a player completely away from where the ball's being delivered into the box as well, I think it's probably going to get given. It didn't really make any sense for Mengi to be sort of initiating any contact in that area of the box. So yeah, it was a mistake from him, but I think it was probably rightly given.
And then there was sort of a similar situation play out, I think, in the second half, again involving Menga, I think it was. But fortunately, that wasn't given because that would have completely dashed, well, not completely, but dashed our chances further of the great escape. Let's talk about two positives, and the first one comes in the form of Elijah Adebayo being back to his very best. Of course, his injuries kept him out, and he came back against Wolves, played well, but it was his first game back in the starter position. And Lewis, I thought he did very, very well.
Yeah, back to the Eli of old. Well, by old I mean a few months ago, but it's felt like it's been a few years with all the injuries we've had pile up. But a really positive performance from Elijah. I think he showed exactly what he's about. Good technically, but also strong as an ox, and he can win stuff in the air. He just showed a constant threat, and it was nice to have a bit more attacking threat outside of Chong and outside of Morris. Sorry, Carlton Morris. Yeah, he's magic. I think that's the word that sums him up perfectly.
Yeah, I think a lot of this season, and it's mostly been since Elijah's been out, there's been talk about Barkley obviously leaving if we do get relegated and Ted and Mengu. But I think Elijah Adebayo rightly deserves to be mentioned in that kind of category. I think he's been phenomenal this season. His goal scoring record in the Premier League has been excellent. He's made lives very, very difficult for some top players. And it's the variability in his attacking play. You just cannot predict him. He can take you on. He can outpower you in his duels. He can be smarter than you. There's absolutely everything that you want in a striker. I think Adebayo has, and what a growth he's endured. And you know, the plaudits he's getting now from the wider Premier League fan base, I think is just a credit to how hard he's worked and how much he's developed from that sort of League Two player we took a chance on. It's hard to think that he's actually the same player, considering you know it's not very long ago since he was that player. So a massive credit to Elijah getting back to full fitness and getting back to his very best. Another positive aspect or point was Tahith Chong, as Finn mentioned, man of the match on Sky. I think he was man of the match in the ground as well. I don't know if that was, I can't actually remember, but I think I'm in agreement that he was man of the match. He was brilliant, and just like Elijah, it's worrying that you know he's putting these performances just at the end of the season. If we do go down, we're starting to worry about players like Adebayo and Chong securing moves back to the Premier League. Lewis, Chong was unplayable at times.
He was, and he can do that. We've seen that firsthand when we were in the Championship, that on his day, he simply cannot be stopped. And I think people around me are saying he'll be Championship Player of the Year next year if we go down. And you can't really argue with them because Everton can deal with him. I thought it was a bit disappointing and a bit of a poor judgment from Edwards to move him over to right wing back, because he was causing them a threat the whole game, and it simply just nullified him by moving him over there. So I was slightly disappointed at that, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. You've got to trust Edwards. But yeah, Chong, just magnificent.
Yeah, as we say, what a player we've got into Heath Chung, and if I say possibility, but if the likelihood happens and we do go down to the Championship and we retain him, then we could be in for a very exciting season next season. Of course, it wasn't just us that played and impacted the relegation battle. It was also Sheffield United versus Nottingham Forest. And just to add a little bit more drama to the situation, Sheffield United went ahead, but Nottingham Forest ended up winning 3-1. It's damaging to our chances of remaining a Premier League club. But I think Forest have shown in the last couple of weeks that that they've left some good performances to the very end. They've battled, and I know FFP and all this other situation does make you look at the situation a little bit differently. But I think on the pitch of late, they've shown that they probably do deserve to stay up. Is that fair to say, Finn?
I think more of some of the individuals in their team and their performances rather than the team as a whole. They probably have been slightly better than we have at times, particularly the likes of Murillo at the back, who we've mentioned on a number of occasions. He's absolutely brilliant. And also, I think one that goes under the radar slightly, but did score his first Premier League goal in that game is someone like Ryan Yates. He's been with them for a number of years. He's an academy graduate, if I'm right. And I think he's been quite a solid performer when he's played for them. And then obviously going forward, Gibbs White has been mentioned on so many occasions. Whether they keep him or not is another question. But those individual performances from a lot of key players, and particularly the spine of that team, have been and will be what likely keeps them up if they do stay up. And I think you have to look at it without the points deductions as well. If it wasn't for the points deductions, they wouldn't be in the position they are now. They'd be safe, and we would actually be relegated by now. But because of these points deductions, we are in a position where we can still stay up mathematically, but it would take a bit of a swing. So yeah, if you're not looking at it from a points deductions point of view, which obviously Rob has been saying all season that he's not been doing, we are technically already relegated. But now you have to look at it as an opportunity to take advantage of what's happened, and we've got to do that in the next couple of games. But yeah, as you mentioned, I think in recent weeks, I think particularly that Man City game on the Sunday that was on TV, I thought they were very, very good in that, and they were unlucky to lose that actually against a Man City team who blow most teams away. But yeah, I think their performances have been very good.
Yeah, going back to what you said, it's a difficult situation to assess, obviously, because Nottingham Forest this season, they've had the deduction, and as you say, we would be down by now if the deduction hadn't have come to fruition. But at the same time, if they hadn't have overspent, would they be in a position where they're picked up the points necessary to lead them to survival? So it's a little bit of a difficult one to fully assess. We're going to head into a short break, but when we're back, we'll talk all things West Ham United away. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, and now we're switching it up. We're looking ahead to West Ham United away, the penultimate game of this Premier League campaign. Finn, it has gone so quick.
Yeah, I can't believe how quickly the whole season's gone. Just every division as well. Like you watch the Championship or something on TV, it's already in the playoffs, and then our season's got 2 games left. It's just mad to think that. I mean, it feels like yesterday we were in pre-season and going away on the pre-season tour, and then watching as all the new signings were getting announced. And now it's already May, and yeah, we're going away to West Ham for the last away game of the season. And I guess it's quite fitting that we're going to West Ham as the last away day of the season, as the London Stadium could not be more different to Kenilworth Road.
It is bizarre to think that less than less than 12 months ago, we secured promotion to the Premier League, and that feels pretty much a couple of months ago, let alone the whole season playing out since then. It's been a whirlwind. I think people were quick to tell us enjoy every minute because it flies by, and I think we've well and truly felt the effects of that. But Lewis, how Luton Town would it be if we went to West Ham, champions of Europe, won and kept the dream alive of surviving this Premier League season?
It'd be classic Luton to go there, win 4-1, and then get battered 6-1 at home by Fulham. So if we win, I would not be hopeful for the Fulham game because, like us, we would win one and lose one. But it's, as we've seen from most teams recently at West Ham, it's possible to get a result there. So there's a bit of hope, especially after that Everton performance as well. If the Everton performance was like Wolves, you'd be a bit like, oh, not too confident about this, and you go out on a bit of a low. But after last Friday, you're going into a bit of positivity and a bit of motivation.
And as you mentioned, just as our sort of spirits and performance levels increase, West Ham are in a spot of, I don't want to say bother because there's no real threat to them, just in a spot of difficulty at the moment. They're bang out of form, 4 points from the last five, conceded 15 in the last five as well. It's been a very difficult end to the campaign for them, especially with sort of ambitions heightened after winning the Europa Conference League last season. It's a good time to play them. And I know we'll get onto David Moyes in a minute and it being his last game and sort of a potential party atmosphere. But when you look at form and form solely, Finn, it's a good time to go there, especially with us still playing for something massive.
Yeah, they're not really playing for anything anymore that I can think of. And it probably is the best time to go to the London Stadium. There's a real animosity towards, as you mentioned, David Moyes from a lot of the supporters, more so because of his style than anything. Obviously, he's done a lot for them while he's been there, but their form has just gone out of the window. And I think maybe the players have down tools a bit. They know they've got nothing to play for. Defensively, they look like an absolute shambles. Like going forward, they do have some really, really talented players that we have to be on our best to stop. But defensively, they've been all over the place. That's probably because it has something to do with who they're missing as well. But they've paid a lot of money for a lot of players, and for them to be conceding 5 against Chelsea, against a very average Chelsea team that people have now come to realise this season, I guess it says a lot about where they are in the season.
And yeah, I think from a West Ham perspective, it's a season that they could do with ending now rather than let it drag on. But as you've both mentioned, they're a good side. They've got a talented squad. Players like Kudus and Jared Bowen, wouldn't look out of place in top six sides. Plenty of attacking talent. I think they recruited well when you consider the Declan Rice money. Of course, the West Ham faithful haven't been too impressed with the style of football, and I guess even that's been half in, half out. But as we learned, I think it was yesterday, that David Moyes will leave West Ham at the end of the campaign. What have you made, Lewis, to David Moyes at West Ham? Because, he's delivered European success, but a team that are probably on the up in terms of their pulling power, in terms of how much they can spend, in terms of, I guess, general um, uh, recruitment power and being a club that has this pulling power. Um, do you think it's a right decision to let him go and be a little bit more ambitious with the next managerial appointment?
It's a risk because I don't know what West Ham fans are wanting. He won them the Conference League. Realistically, they're not going to break into the top six anytime soon. I think it's unlikely. Lopetegui, to be fair, is a top manager, and I think he showed with Wolves that he can build a good team and play good football. But with David Moyes, you haven't got to worry about relegation. There's not many managers you can say where you can go into a season every year and go, I'm not worried about relegation. I'm not worried about getting dragged into anything, or we could go for this. But equally, it isn't the greatest football. And he's not getting points. That's the issue. He's not getting too many points now. He's not playing the greatest football. I think when you play nice football, if you don't get points, there's a bit of forgiveness there because you go, you know what, we played some really good stuff that day. But when you're not playing a nice football, fans start to go, well, what am I here for? We're not knocking it around nicely and we're losing. Might as well go and watch some League Two football. So I can see both sides of it. I can see why they want to try and push on, and I can't blame them.
And I guess there is somewhat of a similarity to the Bournemouth situation at the end of the last campaign, albeit not really from a stylistic point of view, but in terms of the club trying to be a bit more ambitious. Of course, that left Gary O'Neill without a job, and then Iriola came in, and it was a decision that worked for the club at the time. Whether that is the best thing for West Ham, I guess any time will tell. But I think when you've got players like Jared Bowen, Kudos, Paquetá for now, you've got a very good base of playing attacking football and dominating football matches with the ball. It's a risk, I think, and it's one that only time will tell is the right decision or not. Let's go on to everything from a Luton Town perspective. What do you want to see, Finn, from Luton in this game, bar the magic 3 points, of course? Do you want to see a performance where we go out fighting completely? Do you just want to see energy levels high? What kind of performance do you anticipate and do you want to see?
I mean, in terms of what I want to see, and probably what any Luton fan wants to see, is us really just going for it, throwing everything at them from minute one, and showing that we want to stay in this league and we have what it takes to stay in this league, and we're going to do what it takes in every game that we have left to get something from it. I think it's at that stage in the season. This game is win or bust, essentially. It really is win or bust. Obviously, the Forest result could make a slight difference, but if it comes down to goal difference on the last day of the season, we're going to struggle to better that goal difference that Forest have got. So we do have to better both results. So from what I would like to see, and I'm sure you guys agree, I'd like to see us be on the front foot, get up in their faces and frustrate the West Ham crowd as well, because if West Ham aren't playing well, especially at the London Stadium, the crowd can turn quite quickly. And even though it will be David Moyes' last game there, but I'm sure their fans still won't really care if they're playing badly and they're struggling to control possession. So yeah, I think Adebayo being back is huge. He was so good at being up in players' faces. But as supporters as well, we need to get behind our whole team and really push them on. And I know we'll be watching from miles away in the London Stadium, but we need to make as much noise as we can from that distance. So that's what I would be hoping for.
Yeah, certainly one of the, I guess, more interesting stadiums to go to, because obviously being modern and not essentially designed for football. It does have its flaws, but at the same time, they can pack in 60,000 fans into a stadium, which is very, very impressive and just shows you the size of the club and size. I guess that plays into the ambition as well when speaking about David Moyes. When you've got a club as well supported as West Ham, I think that the need for ambition and acting on that ambition is probably a good thing. Last away day of the season for Luton Town, and as we mentioned, it's a very good one. Just down into London, down to East London. I'm sure the away day aspect of it will be brilliant, but of course we're getting to the very nervy end of the campaign. Let's talk about the team and what you do to that starting 11 that played against Everton. Would there be any changes, Lewis, considering it was a performance that was better in quality than the Everton performance was better in quality than the previous two? Do you think there's a need to change anything?
I don't see what you need to change. I think the performance, as we've all spoken about, was there. It was just missing that final second goal. That's all it was missing. So I would stick with it. And also, I don't think we have the luxury of being able to chop and change too much. We have the squad on the pitch is the best squad that we have available. I think if Ogbene is back in the fold, I think he comes on at 60. I don't think he gets rushed straight back into the starting 11. That's if he's even fit. Obviously, that begs the question. So I would stick with the same team. I don't think there's a need or possibility, I suppose, to change it.
Yeah, as you say, Ogbene is the one, if he is available, that certainly gives us that something different. Again, depending on how we approach the game, will probably dictate what team starts. Finn, would you make any changes? Are you on the same lines as Lewis there?
Yeah, I think the only area of the pitch that has had questions, and that's been for a lot of the season because of injuries and things like that, is that right wing back spot. Obviously, Fred isn't a right wing back naturally; he's a winger, but he's done pretty well when he's played there. So I think he's probably been better than Hashioka as well. Unfortunately, as much as I've been hoping that Hashioka would really pull through and be a good player, it doesn't look like he's going to be a Premier League quality good player. So I think, yeah, Fred probably keeps that place unless Ogbene is match fit to start, which I very much doubt. He's not played in a fair few weeks now. If he was fit, obviously you'd love for him to start at that right wing back position, but apart from that, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I'd probably have to be in agreement with both of you there. It is that sort of right wing back slot that is the, I guess, real talking point. But I think I would opt for Onyedinma as well. Have a little bit of motion and pace and just dynamic play. I think he's been somewhat of a revelation coming in, considering where he was at the start of the campaign and being able to deliver consistent displays during a bit of a turbulent time. A credit to him. I don't think he would have envisioned that he'd be back in the team doing what he's doing, but that is the situation we find ourselves in now. Let's go on to some score predictions for West Ham away, a game which could be our final nail in the coffin. It could be the one that sends us down. Finn, what's your score prediction?
I'm going with all heart on this one, and I'm going for 1-0 Luton. So we've barely kept a clean sheet this season, but I'm hoping we can. I'm really hoping we can, and I think if we have got something to hold on to, I think that will really go in our favour.
Lewis, are you sharing the optimism? Are you also going for all 3 points Luton's way?
I am indeed. I'm going to go for 3-1. I think with us, there's no such thing as a low-scoring game, really, apart from if the other team wants to play defensive. And in recent weeks, we've seen that West Ham do not want or cannot do that. So 3-1, Luton win.
Fair play. I think I might join you both in going all heart, no head. I'm going to go 2-0 Luton. As Finn says, clean sheets have been quite elusive this season, but why not save it for the final away game of the campaign? Of course, if we are to get 3 points and Chelsea beat Nottingham Forest, we go into the final game of the campaign all level, which would be, I guess, a massive psychological boost for us, considering there's this kind of feeling that we could be out of it at the moment, and optimism levels have been dashed in some sort of way. But ultimately, as we said at the start of the show, it'd be very Luton Town for us to go and win this one and inflict further pressure on Forest, who today learned they weren't getting any points back. That is it for today. A big thank you to the two of you for joining. A big thank you to everybody watching and listening at home. And we will be back following this West Ham game to review it. Until then, it's goodbye from us.